Welcome to Trial Site News Weekly Roundup. My name is Adrian, and I'll be going over some of our top news stories from this past week. Please click the subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. This week we start our roundup with cancer-related news. World-renowned experts on blood cancers are meeting in San Francisco on September 27th through the 28th to help clinicians stay up to date on new practice-changing strategies to manage patients with hematologic malignancies at the NCCN 2019 Annual Congress Hematologic Malignancies presented by the National Comprehensive Cancer Network, or the NCCN. The Congress will address new, emerging, and novel therapeutic agents, diagnostics, and other advances in the management of blood cancers. Participants will also explore the growing role of immunotherapies, biosimilars, personalized medicine, and chemotherapeutic options in a rapidly changing landscape. Turning now to clinical trial-related news. The ability to identify, organize, and mobilize clinical investigator sites worldwide becomes ever more valuable, hence Accelerated Enrollment Solutions, or AES, a business unit of a Pharmaceutical Product Development, LLC, or PPD, has acquired the clinical research site business of Bioclinica, expanding AES' global footprint and solidifying its leadership position in patient access and site conduct. AES services now extend across 5 continents, 20 countries, over 180 research sites, and more than 100 million households, reports PPD in a recent press release. Roger Smith, SFP, and GM of PPD's AES reports that with these new assets operating on 5 continents, AES is a place where customers can receive 50 to 100% of their entire enrollment from one accountable solution, delivered by research locations that operate uniformly across the globe. Elsewhere in clinical trial-related news, the Department of Defense Joint Program Committee 6, or the JPC-6 Combat Casualty Care Research Program, has collaborated with the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, or the NHLBI, to promote a new initiative by publishing a funding opportunity announcement. This FOA establishes a trans-agency program to support collaborations between hematologists, vascular experts, neuroscientists, and blood-brain barrier, or BBB, tissue chip developers for high-risk, high-reward research to create enhanced, modified platforms that more closely model the human BBB. The first application due date is December 2nd, 2019. You can see the link below to submit an application. Next up in clinical trial-related news, Bayer's Raj Palapathu is developing one of the first enterprise mobile health platforms for clinical trials utilizing the Oracle mHealth Connected Cloud Service technology. He leads mHealth, or Mobile Health Initiative, at Bayer Pharmaceuticals USA and happens to be a medical doctor with extensive experience with infectious diseases. His project at Bayer is timely at this juncture in history, with an explosion of personal devices, cell phones, step monitors, mobile ECGs, etc. Opens new communication and collaboration, not to mention data collection and aggregation opportunities for clinical trials. Forbes picked up on Oracle's paid content contribution from Margaret Linguist, who works for Oracle. The explosion of apps available for clinical research is real ad covered from time to time by Trial Site News. In the case of Bayer, they are creating what they claim, and we cannot yet verify, is the first mHealth platform for clinical trials based on the Oracle mHealth Connected Cloud Service technology. The article reveals that Accenture and Oracle Professional Services are collaborating on this important endeavor for German Bayer, which is one of the 10 largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Continuing on with clinical trial-related news. Columbia University, the oldest academic institution in New York and the 5th oldest in the United States, the institution's clinical research has an impact and reaches worldwide. With 800 million in externally funded research, over 200 research centers and institutes coupled with about 400 new inventions per year, not to mention over 600 patents, Columbia Research means serious business. On its official seal is the Latin motto, which translates into, "In thy light shall we see the light." These are important words with forceful connotation when it comes to responsibility and accountability. Columbia University hasn't lived up to their motto, nor is clinical trial reporting requirements for fair and transparent reporting. A Columbia grade student in pathology and cell biology recently discussed this topic in the Columbia Spectator. He noted that a recent study from UAEM and Transparamed found that Columbia only reported on the results of 17% of their clinical trials. The Food and Drug Administration Amendments Act requires universities to submit results to a public registry within 12 months post-completion of a clinical trial. Well, Columbia's ranking in the nation for reporting of clinical results, second worst. Now, we'd like to note that the consequences for not reporting clinical trial results are significant, from the potential to slow down innovation by duplicating research to the potential of jeopardizing patients' well-being from suppression of negative results. And rightly so, that this isn't just a theoretical topic. In the case from the University of India, serves as an example when adverse side effects led to clinical trial termination. Yet the sponsor withheld the data from the public, and only years later did the FDA declare Avastin unsuitable to treat breast cancer. We'd like to note that the Clinical Trials Transparency Report is part of UAEM's larger campaign pressing universities to join in with the World Health Organization joint statement on public disclosure of results from clinical trials. And we'll keep you posted on this story as it continues to develop. And now turning to neurological disease-related stories. CereHealth Corporation, a national network of functional brain imaging and analytics centers, have received approval of its Littleton, Colorado location as a qualified imaging facility for a Sun Pharma Advanced Research Company, or SPARC, sponsored Phase 2 randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study of KO-706 in subjects with early Parkinson's disease. CereScan will serve as the SPECT Imaging Center for Denver Neurological Research, the approved independent private clinical research site, which conducts Phase 1 through Phase 4 trials and specializes in the neurosciences. The study is conducted to evaluate the efficacy, safety, and tolerability of 2 doses of K0706 compared to placebo in patients with early Parkinson's disease who are not receiving dopaminergic therapy. The interventional trial will evaluate the efficacy and safety of ABL tyrosine kinase inhibition using the K0706 pharmaceutical. The study is targeting 504 participants, including individuals diagnosed with clinically probable PD, with documented onset of symptoms within 3 years of the screening. And now we turn to hair loss related news. The Korean Ministry of Food and Drug Safety recently approved a Phase 2 clinical trial for Dangook University Hospital's dermatology department to study the efficacy of botulinum toxin nabota for the treatment of hair loss on 48 male study participants. Sponsored by Daewoo Pharmaceutical, the Korean company has been collaborating with clinical investigator Park Byung-chol, professor of dermatology at Dangook University Hospital. And now we turn to Alzheimer's related stories. The University of Buffalo, or UB, and Tetra Therapeutics have co-developed a drug called BPN 14770 that in preclinical research has deterred the effects of amyloid beta, a key calling card protein of Alzheimer's that is toxic to nerve cells. Now, Phase 1 results in healthy elderly volunteers suggests benefits. The drug will now be studied in a Phase 2 clinical trial. The study commenced in April 2019 and will run through June 2020, according to clinicaltrials.gov. A randomized parallel assignment double-blind placebo-controlled 3-arm parallel design study to study the effects of BPN 14770 in patients with early-stage Alzheimer's disease. The study will include 255 participants. And now for an autoimmune-related story. Anokion, Switzerland, a Swiss biotechnology company focused on treating autoimmune disease by restoring normal immune tolerance, today announced the acquisition of Canos Bio, Inc. and the completion of a $40 million Series B financing. Anokion has come a long way, according to John A. Honecker, MD, President and Chief Executive Officer of Anokion, who said, "Since our founding, Anokion has developed and consolidated significant insights and applications for treating both prevalent and rare autoimmune diseases, with an initial focus on people affected by celiac disease and multiple sclerosis." Elsewhere in autoimmune-related news, author J.K. Rowling has donated £15.3 million to support neurological research at a center named after her mother. The Anne Rowling Regenerative Neurological Clinic at the University of Edinburgh was established with a £10 million donation from the Harry Potter author in 2010. The latest gift will help support the creation of new clinical research facilities. The Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling lost her mom, Anne Rowling, when she died at 45 from complications related to multiple sclerosis or MS. Now, this has had a profound impact on Ms. Rowling, and she has since been committed to funding healthcare-related initiatives. And we'll keep you posted on the story as it continues to develop. And now to a strep throat vaccine story. Sutrovax Inc., a company commercializing a novel investigational vaccine based on original research by scientists at the University of California, San Diego, or the UCSD, was awarded $15 million from CARB-X, an international nonprofit partnership of private academic and government institutions. The award will support the development of the universal vaccine for Group A Streptococcus or gas, the bacteria that causes pharyngitis or strep throat. UCSD will collaborate on the development of the vaccine and conduct the initial testing. The UCSD team found a way around the damaging autoimmune response triggered by strep. The cell's wall is primarily composed of a complex molecule known as the Group A carbohydrate or GAC, which in turn is built from repeating units of the bacterial sugar rhamnose and the human-like sugar N-acetylglucosamine. A GLC-NAC, CARB-X, is the world's largest funder of antibacterial development research, with 30 active projects in 5 countries. Now, since 2016, it has awarded over $130.5 million. Now, ab-effective vaccine against gas pharyngitis would mean a large reduction in global antibiotic use, alleviating the selective pressure for antibiotic resistance development. And now we turn to a brain tumor-related story. St. Jude Children's Children's Research Hospital has completed the first stage of a clinical trial evaluating GDC-0084 for diffuse pontine glioma, or DIPG, an aggressive and dangerous brain tumor. The commercial sponsor is Australian-based Kazia Therapeutics Limited, or KZIA. The study seeks to assess the proper portion of GDC-0084 for pediatric uses in cases of DIPG and other diffuse midline gliomas. There are no effective treatments for pediatric brain cancers, and this must change. Trial Site News will be monitoring this study carefully. And now for a SiteWatch challenge story. Avexis, a startup company with an awe-inspiring success story, has now been cited by the FDA for manipulating data that contributed to their miracle drugs approval. Avexis was acquired in 2018 by renowned pharmaceutical giant Novartis for $8.7 billion. No small sum of change. No less impressive is their miracle drug Zolgensma, a cure for babies with deadly neurological disorder or spinal muscular atrophy, that was also classified as the world's most expensive drug on the market by May 2019. Just one infusion of this gene therapy costs $2.125 million. As reported by the Wall Street Journal, scientist Brian Casper and other researchers at Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio, had been experimenting with a possible gene therapy treatment for SMA for years. In 2013, Avexis licensed the technology, eventually bringing on Dr. Casper as scientific founder. However, in 2016, employees found that Dr. Casper's calculations were imprecise and notified executives. Casper was later replaced in the wake of the data manipulation issue. Additional issues were found during the FDA's probe into the data manipulation, such as incomplete lab records and the use of an uncertified laboratory for patient testing. The FDA has allowed the drug to stay on the market, saying the data manipulation doesn't affect its efficacy or safety. In addition, the FDA official on the call said the agency would have taken the treatment off the shelf if it had any doubts. After all, dozens of babies have been successfully treated with Zolgensma. Elsewhere in SiteWatch-related news. A recent study published in JAMA Oncology reveals that there is a growing age disparity between oncology trial participants in industry-sponsored clinical trials, who tend to be younger, and the corresponding typical cancer patient in the general population. This concern has been around for decades, and with the recent study, some tangible numbers can be associated with the challenge. Naveed Saleh interviewed Dr. Gary H. Lyman, PMD, MPH, Senior Lead Healthcare Quality and Policy at Fred Hutchinson's Cancer Research Center in Seattle, and a professor at the University of Washington School of Medicine, who found the results discouraging and noted that this age disparity between clinical trial participant and patient in the clinic has been a concern for decades. He said, and I quote, that patients who are eligible for and accrued to a clinical trial tend to be younger than the corresponding typical cancer patient in the population. Lyman frets that the gap appears to be growing, and this is a troubling trend. The study authors concluded that age disparities between clinical trial participants and the actual cancer population being treated in health centers are pervasive across clinical trials and appear to be increasing over time. Now, Dr. Ethan Ludmer, resident physician in the Department of Radiation and Oncology with MD Anderson and the study lead, quoted that we found that the age disparities in the enrollment of elderly patients, which are pervasive in clinical trials in cancer, seem to be worsening. Now, we confirmed what those in this industry already know, that oncology-focused clinical trials recruit younger participants than those trials sponsored by academic medical centers. We strongly recommend that the industry starts addressing age disparity to ensure generalization of trial results as well as equity in trial access. Do you have any clinical news you'd like us to report on? If so, let us know. Contact information is in the box below. If you'd like to watch more videos, you can click on the playlists here. Thank you for joining us for this week's Trial Site News Roundup, and remember, subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of updates. We'll see you next time.